There it is. This is the scene that apparently lives in infamy on the internet. This is it. This is the one. We're going to deep dive into this particular scene very quickly. This is going to be a quick video explaining this scene and the reason why people did not like this scene. Because for me, I feel as though people get this very misconstrued and they don't truly understand why individuals such as myself and others do not particularly like this scene. So let's get into it. Guys, we made it. We've officially made it, guys. Attack on Titan has finally wrapped up its final episode in the anime on this past Saturday, November the 4th. Now, on that particular episode, guys, a lot of anime-only fans have finally watched. They finally got a chance to see it in action. They finally got a chance to see their favorite anime, if you will, go through its ups and downs and finally end in its final climax of the episode that was presented to us 2 days ago. Now, for me, I've already known about this particular ending, if you will, 2 years ago when I read the manga. And I finished up the manga and I read that, and I already knew what was to come, basically. I was erenyeager, right? I kissed the hand of Astoria and I figured out and knew what was going to come, right? So I knew that. Now, what I didn't really expect is I didn't really expect a lot of people or a lot of anime-onlys to actually enjoy what was presented to them. I really wasn't expecting it. Now, from what I can tell, for the most part, a lot of the reviews and a lot of the different videos that I saw across the landscape of YouTube, a lot of individuals were praising it and saying that this is just this great masterpiece of a show and that the ending was perfect and that everything, and they didn't understand why people were so upset at particular things, and they didn't know why we were complaining in regards to the manga readers about the ending, and they just didn't know. They were just oblivious to it. They just had no clue. But I'm here today to clue you guys in, because shout out to you, Brown's Magic. Shout out to you. I watched a particular video that she had put out, and she made a very poignant point with a statement that she made. And that statement was, she was proclaiming that a lot of the anime-only individuals who only watch the anime, there's something that they all share in common. And that commonality is not the issue that I kind of have in a sense of them all liking the episode. Is the commonality of forgetfulness. She said it plain as this, and I'm going to paraphrase what she said, but in so many words, what she basically proclaimed is that a lot of the anime-only individuals who only watch the anime, you all forgot the story. You all forgot the story of Attack on Titan. And at first, to me, I was like, what is she referencing? But then I had to go back into my hindbrain, and I actually had to use that gray matter up top and look at it from a logical perspective. And logically speaking, she's 1000% correct. Those of you who just watched the anime, you all had to wait so long for it to be adapted into anime format. So a lot of the nuanced conversations and a lot of the smaller details that pertain to the story itself, you all simply forgot. And again, I don't blame you guys. I don't blame you guys, because reality is that they milked the hell out the series. They wanted to get as much as they can, much press, as much media behind it as they could, to kind of draw strings of money and try to get all that out. And that's fine. That's understandable. That's business. I get that. But a lot of you guys forgot a lot of the nuances in the particular story that is Attack on Titan. You guys mainly remember the big, exciting parts of the story, such as Erwin leading the charge to try to get Eren back. Eren being down captive where the royal family was, and his story having to bring him out of his a desperate attempt for him to off himself and want to sacrifice himself, right? You guys remember that. You guys remember Levi versus Kenny, right? Y'all remember that. Y'all remember, them going to the basement and having to fight through Bertolt and Reiner to get there. Y'all remember the Reiner and Bertolt reveal. Y'all remember the big, exciting parts of the story. But you guys don't remember a lot of the nuanced conversations and dialogue that actually carried the story to its precipice that we got on Saturday. You guys don't remember that stuff, right? And it's okay that you don't, as I said. It's perfectly fine that you don't. That's why there's people like me and people like others who will actually understand that and will show you things to try to open your eyes a bit. I want to point out major concerns that I have, or just basically elaborating on the scene that was shown earlier and things that you all aren't really understanding, right? And I want you guys to go into this with an open mind. I want you guys to understand and say, okay, this can make sense. I want you guys to literally use critical thinking skills as I am going through this and trying to explain this. When it comes to the scene when Eren is breaking down in front of Armin after Armin punches him, and they are walking through paths, and Eren is kind of showing him the different things and the different points and stuff in paths. A lot of people, myself included, did not particularly like this scene. A lot of individuals are not understanding why we didn't like this. And they're looking at it from, I guess, only word I can use is just from a dull perspective. They're not really realizing what the story was, right? Again, them being anime only, they only kind of know the big portions of stuff, but they didn't really deep dive into the story like a lot of other people did, because they just remember what they remember, which is fine. The main reason why a lot of us disliked this particular scene is not because Eren broke down. To be honest with you, I'm probably going to sound a little bit irritated. And the reason I'm going to sound irritated is because for a long time, and even now, people are trying to use the stupid cop-out that, oh, you're upset because Eren didn't turn out to be this Chad Eren or this megalomaniac Eren or this mastermind Eren, and you guys are upset that this was Eren and all Eren was just a little boy in general, and he didn't really understand what was happening, and you guys are just mad that he's not the Chad Supreme Leader Council Eren that he portrayed to you guys. That is the furthest thing from the truth. This is why I sound irritated. This is why I actually sometimes lash out and say you guys never really understood the story to begin with. Nobody is upset that Eren was crying. Nobody is upset that Eren broke down and was scared of actually dying, right? And how he wanted to be with everybody. Nobody's upset about that. What we are upset about is the context in which that breakdown occurred for. That's the problem. The problem is the context, not that he broke down. The context of that breakdown was surrounded by him wanting to be with Mikasa in a romantic sense and wanting her to not be with anybody else and only wanting her to be with him. That is the problem. That is the issue. Because throughout the entirety of the story, there has been nothing that has tied them together romantically from his part. I repeat, there has been nothing romantic from his end to her. Now, on her end, you could definitely see it portrayed throughout. She looked at him as her hero. She looked at him as her savior. She always wanted to protect him. She always wanted to be by his side. She always wanted to make sure he was okay. Clearly, she had feelings for him. That was understood throughout the entirety of the story. However, from Eren's point of view to Mikasa, it was not that. It was more of a brotherly sister bond from Jump Street. It was from brother sister. He did not look at her in a romantic sense throughout the entirety of the story. So when he all of a sudden just broke down talking about he wanted to be with her and how all of a sudden he didn't want her to be with any other guy, that didn't make sense. This is why everybody was upset. This is why everybody was so taken aback from that. It had nothing to do with Eren being some Chad Eren doing all this stuff and he couldn't break down and he had to remain stoic the whole time. Nobody cared about that because clearly there were scenes that showed that he wasn't that stoic guy. There were scenes that showed that he wasn't this almighty manipulator. There were plenty of scenes of that. Him crying in front of Ramsay. Him being upset and saddened by Sasha's death. Those scenes showed that he wasn't this macho man guy. We got that. We understood that. We knew that. We never wanted Eren to just be that guy. We wanted Eren's character to remain intact. That was the main issue. I'm going to go into that portion in a later video. But for now, I wanted to talk about this particular scene. Because I get tired of people saying that. Like, none of us cared that he was this manly, macho manipulator and this, mustache turning villain mastermind. Nobody wanted that. We never cared about that. We only cared about consistency and we only cared about the story itself. So us, the people who hated it, we remember that there was no type of romanticism or romanticizing of Mikasa from his end. There was none. The only time that you could say that was when he asked her, "What am I to you?" But even from then, what I gathered from that when he asked her was that he was trying to determine if the future was going to change, if she was going to say anything differently, which we did see that she did say something differently and they ran off together. But by them doing that, he lived with regret. He lived a life of sorrow. Yes, he was with her, but he wanted more. And he died wanting more. So, yes, we saw that. But that was what that scene was there to portray. Right? So we saw that. But that was the only time that there was something that he romantically linked to her. That was the only time he did that. This is why we were upset. This is why it didn't make sense. This is why we were like, that's ridiculous. Even if you guys want to use him saying, "I'll wrap the scarf around you" scene. Let's say y'all want to use that, right? Clearly she was going in for a kiss. She was clearly going in for a kiss. We clearly saw that. What did he do? He got straight up and ignored that shit. And was just like, "Hey, I'm going to wrap the scarf around you." After that, there was no more mention of it. There was no more mention of it. Of that interaction between them. She didn't bring it up. He didn't bring it up. He wasn't like, "Hey, remember that time we were on a verge of death and things of that nature and it was crazy stuff going on? I felt as though you meant more. There was a deeper meaning to what you were saying at that particular time." Nothing. There was nothing. It's never brought up again, right? So that within itself proves from his side that he didn't care about her like that. If he truly cared about her in that way, in his most darkest time, he would have said something about it. He would have been like, "You know what? Damn, I'm going to miss Mikasa. But he did not say that. And what I'm referencing is when he was held captive down there where the royal family was, the area in which his dad had wiped out the royal family. He had no mental capacity to care about Mikasa if he was just that romantically obsessed with her and wanted her like that. He would have said something. Something would have done. He was about to die. He was willing to sacrifice his life and say, look, my life is worthless. It's my dad's fault we were in this situation. If in fact my dad did not do what he did, we would be straight. So I tell you what, I'm not worthy enough for this. Go ahead and eat me and make it right. He did not mention nothing about, oh my God, because man, I'm going to miss you guys. Nothing. None of that was mentioned. None of it. So I'm confused as to where this concept comes from that scene to where he's talking about, oh man, I don't want her to be with another guy. Like it just blows your mind. So this is what I'm saying. Like a lot of people try to push that narrative that we just wanted Eren to be this cold, calculated master manipulator. That's not what it is. I don't care. In that particular situation, if he would have broke down as he did, but his dialogue was different and it included everybody, where he was saying, look, I don't want to die. I don't want to leave you guys. I want to be able to stay here longer with you guys and live out a long life. That's what I desire. I want that. If in fact he said that, it would have been a perfect scene because we understood, we could empathize with that. Him being as young as he was and wanting to live out the rest of his life with his friends and his loved ones, we understand that. We can be like, man, I feel you on that. Man, I get that. Man, that sucks. God damn, that sucks. But his first thing was talking about Mikasa, in which there was no evidence to it at all. Now, if you flip it around and you put Armin in Eren's spot and Annie in Mikasa's spot, it would make sense. Him breaking down like that, saying, oh, I don't want Annie to be with any other guy. I don't want Annie to do any other thing with anybody else. We could get that. We could say, damn. Okay, we get it. Especially knowing that he went down there and talked to her every day and visited her and doing all this stuff. And you could already kind of have that sense that they liked each other. They had some type of crush on each other. We got that because it was portrayed throughout the story. That's what we're saying. We just want the story to be congruent. We want the story to make sense. This particular scene and him breaking down like that did not make sense. It did not make any sense. This is why we were upset. Again, I reiterate, it had nothing to do with Eren being some mastermind, cold, mustache twizzling villain turning around in a chair making a dramatic entrance. We didn't give a shit about that. We did not care about that. None of us cared about that at all in that particular moment. We cared more about the story writing itself to the point that it was at and making fucking sense. It did not make sense for him to break down about Mikasa being with another man, especially when he himself had no romanticized actions or anything towards her at all. Even when the walls broke the first time in the first season, when she was like, don't die and all of this stuff and worried about her, he headbutted her. He said, don't worry about me. I'm not going to die. Right? Stop treating me like a little kid. Stop treating me like that. That ain't romantic. That's not being like, hey, I won't die. Right? It's none of that. None of it. None of it. You guys can't point to a portion of the story that has anything remotely to do with him romanticizing over Mikasa. None of it. This is the reason why. And I felt the need to have to go through this and to say this because I'm putting this out here because for some reason that narrative is always being pushed like people just wanted, like we just wanted him to be some cold, stoic dude and being like, I don't care about anybody. Fuck everybody. Like, no, we never cared about that. We wanted it to make sense. We wanted the story to make sense. Every other situation in which he broke down or he cried or he was frustrated or something like that, it made sense. We were like, okay, I get that. I can get him being frustrated that they never found a way to do this, or him being upset that he's not going to actually see them and he's going to die and pass off and stuff because of the curse or whatever. We get that. I understand that, him being upset and questioning the morality of his choice of saving Ramsay when he's going to kill him anyway. We get that breakdown. We understand that. We understand him crying and sobbing and not and uncontrollably trying to hold back tears but couldn't. We get that. But this did not make sense based upon the previous chapters, based upon everything else that has happened. This is all we cared about. We only cared about the story being congruent and the story making sense and the story tying itself up in a nice little bow and giving it a nice send-off. That's all that we ever cared about. So that whole theory or whatever, that rumor talking about we cared about and doing that stuff, that's a lie. I'm setting it straight now. That's a fucking lie. So don't even worry about that. We just want the story to make goddamn sense. I don't think there's too much to ask for. Just saying. Alright guys, that is going to do it for me here. Again, I just wanted to come in here on this particular portion and kind of break down that particular scene and the reason as to why me and so many others disliked that particular scene. Again, I hope this was helpful enough for you guys. I hope that you guys took something from this and you guys are now enlightened with new information of, oh, okay, that we can get that, we can see that. I hope that I did my best at portraying that to you guys. Now, again, this is going to be a hefty week of a lot of Attack on Titan content because now the anime-only individuals who only watch the anime are now caught up. So they themselves are going to be putting out a lot of different content, a lot of different things of that nature. I wanted to wait a couple of days before I released anything regarding Attack on Titan because I wanted it to sink in. The reason I wanted everything to sink in is because I know how it feels when I watch a good movie. When I watch a good movie and you walk out of the theater, you're giving it and you're hyped up, you're going to give it a high score. You're going to be like, man, this shit was phenomenal. This shit was a 10. This shit was this. Without actually going back into the recesses of your mind and actually looking at it objectively and trying to break down what you saw and letting everything sink in, letting everything marinate. That's why I wanted to wait a couple of days because now we can get the full context of a lot of reviewers and what they say. Because them in the moment reacting to it, of course they're going to say, oh man, it was phenomenal. Because again, action's happening, they're emotional because it's the last episode and it's not going to come back. And they've, been watching this thing for 10 years maybe from the beginning it started or halfway. They've grew up with this anime per se. So it's going to be a lot of emotions tied to it and a lot of emotions that are going into their reaction or whatever they're going to say when it comes to the anime. So I wanted it to die down. I wanted it to marinate as I see it. And I want people to come back and actually assess what they saw regularly. So that was my goal. I hope it worked as I said. So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I hope that I wrapped everything up nicely for you. You guys walked away with a different perspective regarding that particular scene and why so many people disliked that particular scene. If you guys did enjoy that, again, guys, go ahead and like the video as well as subscribe to the channel. Those two things help out the channel tremendously, and I appreciate all those who have done so. Also, guys, go ahead and hit the notification bell so you guys are up to date of any time I drop any type of content on this particular channel. And go ahead and share this. Share this with everybody that you know. Share this with individuals that may have shared the same sentiment as you not really understanding as to why people pretty much kind of hated that particular part. And just share it with them and say, hey, look, this actually makes sense. I can understand why people actually hated this and stuff of that nature. Because again, I hope that I did a good job in kind of explaining that. But as for now, this is where I leave you guys. Hope you guys have a great fucking day. And I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out.